Welcome, everyone. Bienvenidos a todos. We'll give everyone just a couple of minutes as everyone is coming in. Thank you so much for your flexibility this evening and joining us virtually. Vamos a darles unos minutos mientras se unen todos. Gracias por su flexibilidad, por estar aquí con nosotros esta tarde. Welcome. My name is Raquel Williams. I am the Culture and Engagement Manager here at Adams 12, and it's my privilege to welcome you tonight. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Raquel Williams. Yo soy la gerente de Cultura y Colaboración aquí en Adams 12, y es mi privilegio poder darles la bienvenida esta tarde. Tonight, we will be offering simultaneous interpretation into English, so we will ask for everyone to please choose your preferred audio channel. At the bottom of your screen, you will see a globe labeled interpretation, and you will see the options English and Spanish. Go ahead and choose your preferred audio channel. Everyone needs to pick a language so that you are able to hear the presentation in your preferred language. Esta tarde estaremos ofreciendo interpretación simultánea al español, así que necesitamos que cada persona escoja su canal de audio preferido. Al pie de la página encontrará un globo con la palabra interpretación. Allí puedes escoger inglés o español. As we are in the virtual world, I will remind you to please keep your mics muted unless we are calling upon you. And also you will have the chance to be able to share your thoughts with us, and we are very excited to hear those, of course. Next, I will go ahead and turn it over to Joe Ferdani, our Chief Communications Officer.
Thank you, Raquel, and welcome everyone. We're very excited that you've joined us this evening. We want to share a little bit about our vision for a future 5-star STEM school at Baseline and get your feedback and thoughts on that school. You're going to have multiple opportunities during the course of the evening to share some feedback with us on a couple things, including the physical building that we're looking at that will house the 5-star STEM school, as well as the programming that is associated with the school itself and some of the industry partnerships that we're looking at. So we're really excited to have you this evening. We know that there's going to be a lot of information that's shared over the next hour and a half. So we encourage you, if you've got a piece of paper, pencil, pen next to you, that as questions come up in terms of something that you're hearing about, to jot those down on that piece of paper, because at the end of our time together, we will have some time for you to ask some of those questions. So we're, without further ado, we will hear from our superintendent, Chris Godowski, who will make some introductions and share a few opening thoughts. Chris.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, guests and participants tonight for joining us. We appreciate your flexibility in moving into this remote virtual space. Our experiences on these really cold, snowy evenings that in-person participation really declines significantly. And so we want to maximize the number of folks who could participate, and appreciate your flexibility in joining us in this format. As you'll see on the screen, there are a number of folks from staff that are going to be part of tonight's presentation and dialogue with you, as well as some guests from Mindspark Learning and McWhinney. You can see the names of our staff members who are going to be engaged here tonight and their titles listed. And in addition to our staff members, we have Kyle Harris from McWhinney and Kelly Loft from Mindspark Learning. Unfortunately, Jennifer Hoffman from the City and County of Broomfield is not able to join us tonight, but Kelly Loft will be sharing some of the information about the city's engagement in this project on her behalf. As we prepare to get started, I would just invite you to provide your feedback to us as we have these dialogue sessions and get into question and answers at the end. What we've conceived here and are going to be sharing with you tonight is a school that's designed, number one, to build on some past success in our system, STEM Lab and then STEM Launch and North Glen High School STEM program have been highly successful ways of engaging students in their learning over the last 10 years. And we see this next STEM school at Baseline being a way to build on those successes. And also to, without the constraints some of our other STEM programs had around existing facilities, build a new facility that will be most responsive to the learning needs of kids today and our business partners that we hope to serve in the future. So we look forward to hearing what you think about that. We see tremendous opportunity in the school, not only to serve roughly the 2,000 students we expect to come out of Baseline once it gets to full development. That will take a long time. And so as we get to that point, 20 or more years down the road, how can we go about serving kids not only who live in Baseline, but throughout our community who have interest in this opportunity? And so we look forward to telling you more about what we have in mind and how we feel like it could be innovative and responsive, not only to the needs of students and families, but also our business community. And your feedback will help us figure out if we're really dialed in the right way, or if there's some refinements and changes we can make to make the school even more productive and effective than what we have currently hoped to do. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back to Joe, who's going to get us into the meat of the program.
Thank you, Chris. So we're going to have 4 different sections this evening that are going to address different parts of the 5-star STEM school at Baseline. What you're going to see momentarily in the chat is a link to a breakout guide for those 4 sections. There are some key questions after each section that we're going to ask for your feedback on. So feel free, if you want to click on that guide just to follow along. But we'll also, as we go through the presentation, we'll also be highlighting those questions for you. So we're going to start with our first section, which is a preview of the school. And I would like to introduce Carrie Glenn, who is our district STEM coordinator. Carrie.
Good evening, everyone. It's really exciting just to be able to share with you about the school design that we have been working on and looking at for a number of years. And so, as you've heard from Chris, this is one of our 5-star STEM schools. And it's going to be identical in model to the other STEM schools inside of our district. That said, many of you have probably heard of either STEAM schools where arts are being highlighted, or STREAM where they're adding in reading, or then STREAM with 2 A's with a double A to make sure that athletics is not left out. We want to make sure that you understand when Adams 12 is talking about STEM, we are not talking about the programs that or the subjects that we're prioritizing. Instead, we're talking about the career paths that we want to make sure that we're offering our students. Because we do also want to be able to highlight integrated fine arts and practical arts programs, as well as part of the model, every student from kindergarten through 12th grade in every subject are given authentic problems to solve. And then they present their solutions to panels of industry experts. These 5-star STEM schools are happening. We see STEM in every classroom every day. And as Chris brought up, and on the next slide, we'll see the 3 existing STEM schools inside of Adams 12. We have STEM Lab, STEM Launch, and North Glen High School STEM. If you're interested in finding out about more of what 5-star STEM actually looks like every day, there's both a QR code as well as a URL that you're going to be able to find out more information. Something about the 3 current 5-star STEM schools, if you notice, all 3 are located south of 120th Avenue. This will be the first 5-star STEM school that is in the north part of the district. And if you notice in the map to the right, at the very top of the map is where you'll see an orange dot, and that represents where the new 5-star STEM school is going to be. And in addition to what we see inside of grades K through 12, inside of the high school programming, not only at North Glen High School, but also at the new Baseline school, we are going to be offering students the ability to choose a pathway that is industry-based. And so North Glen High School already has 3 different pathways, as we can see on the next slide. And we know that at the baseline school, later on in this presentation, you're going to see the pathways that we're looking at for the baseline school. Like North Glen, not only do we have students with the ability to earn industry credentials while attending school, but they'll also be able to earn college credits as part of those pathways. And so some really exciting things that are coming along. So we want to share with you what our vision is. And this is, again, an overview of the big picture of what we're looking at for this school. We want this to be truly a national blueprint for educational innovation. We already have schools and communities from across the country touring our programs right now, but we really see this being able to incorporate the vision holistically inside of a single location at the heart of the work that we're doing. So Adams 12 is going to be our educational anchor, and we're going to be having career and technical education being modeled, not only starting in the middle school, but actually pressing down to some of the earlier grades. We are also looking at being able to have co-location with industry, municipalities, and higher education, as well as being absolutely integrated into the development of baseline in a very strategic way. And so with that being said, this is the information that you're going to be hearing in great detail over the course of the night. We want to make sure you understand what it is and where some of the differences are. So there's a table on the next slide that we're going to be looking at, where we are looking at this school as being a hybrid choice and boundary pre-K 12th grade school. So everything from pre-kindergarten through 12th grade, identical in model, as you've heard me say, as well as with co-location and an integrated fine and practical arts program. We are talking about increasing the partnerships and exposures that our students have that are really going to be able to benefit them as well as the communities that we've been planted in. Where this is different and where we would like to have your feedback over the course of this night, you're going to see some very specific questions in some of the different breakout sessions you have around these issues and identities. Because of the size of land that the school is being built on, it's going to be a vertical model school. And because of that, there's going to be changes from what is considered to be traditional. And so instead of having a gymnasium, we're looking at having fitness and wellness rooms. And because of the adjacency, there are not any community sports fields that are adjacent to the school. So that's going to change the types of sports options, as well as the type of extracurricular opportunities that will be at this school compared with other public schools. And because of the STEM programming options, it will change and modify some of the other electives that students would be able to have. And so with that being said, I'm going to pass this back to Joe for you just to be able to get some directions to our first breakout session now. So Joe.
Thank you, Carrie. So as you'll see on your screen, we have 2 questions that we'd like you to reflect on. So if you can, hopefully you have a piece of paper, pen or pencil in front of you. Just want to take 1 minute, jot down a few ideas related to both of these questions. What excites you about the possibilities so far? And then the second question, what wonderings do you have around this project's vision and proposed educational design at this point? So we'll take a minute and then I'll explain what we're going to do in our breakout session. So please write down some ideas on your paper. Okay, so we are going to have roughly 8 breakout rooms with about 5 people in each of those breakout rooms. What we'd like you to do over the next 3 minutes or so, 3 or 4 minutes, is to just share some of your answers to those questions. And we know that sometimes it's hard to see who goes first in these breakout rooms. So whoever in your breakout room has the shortest hair, they should start the conversation. So one more thing before we go to breakouts, if you are assigned a breakout number 1 or number 2, please assign someone to represent the group's conversation when we come out of our breakout. All right, Raquel, I think we can head to breakouts.
All breakout rooms should now be open and you should have been invited to join. If for some reason you were assigned and you shouldn't have been assigned, go ahead and just come back. And anyone who's missing an assignment, I will try and, oh, here we go. Let's see. Looks like there's a few people without an assignment, so I'm going to go ahead and move you. Anyone else remaining in the main room that should be in a breakout room? And I think we have everyone.
Okay, thank you, Raquel. So breakout room number 1. If the spokesperson for breakout room number 1 could share just a little bit about first question, what excites you about the possibilities so far?
Hi, my name is Adam Bronstein. I can represent group number 1. We were kind of learning a little bit more about the vision as we were talking. So, my comment about what excites us was really focused on, just this National Innovation Center and how it's going to be this shining star for not just the Adams 12 community, but, the whole region, from an educational programming and great cultural advantage for this part of the state and north part of Adams County. So we were lucky in our group to have someone who has been familiar with the project for a couple of years now, was giving us a little bit more in-depth information on the design philosophy behind it. So I think we learned a little bit about that. I think one question I had the last second there was wondering what has been done throughout this process to see what's being done nationally and internationally, touring other facilities, other things that are being done that can be expanded upon, lessons learned, things like that.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Group number 2, any themes from either of those questions? What excites you or what wonderings do you have?
Hey, Joe, I'm the spokesperson for group 2. This is April
Hi,
over at PRA. So a couple of things. We talked about how there's a lot of Thunder Vista families really excited about the high school option, the ability to have another high school in the area. That's maybe not quite to the size and scale of Legacy. So that was exciting. The opportunity to have so many students at the school in the next 20 years. This wellness concept as compared to the gym and how that innovation. And then just that it's in a good spot. So the hub of industry that's happening right in this location is very exciting. And then from over here at Pure, we're excited to have another science and math focused school to be able to partner with. So, and then on the wondering side, we were just talking a little bit about some of the constraints that you guys had mentioned and the limitations around athletic offerings and kind of what that will look like as it plays out.
Okay. All right. We're going to do a quick, what we call waterfall. So for those of you who didn't have an opportunity or didn't hear April or Adam talk about what excites you or what wondering you have, go ahead and just put that in the chat now. I'm excited about X. I wonder about Y. So go ahead and just type away in the chat those ideas. Don't be shy. Here we go. STEM school closer to home. Wondering what certificates will be offered for students to complete in high school. Excited PK-12, wondering about athletics. All right, wonderful. Continue to feel free to keep putting in the wonderings or excitement, and I'm going to introduce the next section, which is going to look at the facility itself as well as enrollment projections. So welcome McWhinney's Kyle Harris, Matt Schaefer, our planning manager, and Margie Amman for that presentation. Take it away.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Kyle Harris, General Manager of McWhinney's Baseline Community. So quickly, what is Baseline? What is it all about? We are, by the numbers, an 1,100-acre urban community that is in a largely suburban environment. We anticipate having approximately 9,000 residences at full build-out and somewhere in the neighborhood of between 6 and 8 million square feet of commercial space. But beyond the numbers, Baseline is a place where we envision people being able to live, work, recreate, collaborate, dine and shop, educate, and of course, learn. Before we brought all the consultants in to help us out with the master planning, we took a step back because at McWhinney, we believe any great community needs to be founded upon a set of guiding principles. Think of those as something of a North Star for the community. And we landed upon our 3 guiding principles, which are environmental stewardship, healthy living, and innovation. And the proposed Baseline STEM school, with its PBL learning methodology and its relationship that is already established with, I think we're up to over 500 STEM industry partners. Well, that learning methodology fits squarely into our innovation pillar. And what's interesting is, and what we love about this whole concept is that the school, well, our Baseline community is really uniquely positioned to serve as something of a living laboratory for STEM students. And we get pretty jazzed about this. So for example, first of all, we have intentionally located the school in the park. So it will be part of 75 acres of open lands where the educational experience can literally spill out of the classroom and into the surrounding park area where students get direct exposure to the ecology and the hydrology of the place. We have also intentionally located the Butterfly Pavilion, which will also be moving to the site. It will be located adjacent to the STEM school. And what we love there is the idea of students being able to work hand in hand with the horticulturalists and the entomologists of the Butterfly Pavilion. I mean, we actually anticipate students helping the scientists take censuses of the pollinators within Baseline so they can help us determine how effective we are or not in implementing the tenets of the pollinator district, which will be implemented across the entire 1,100 acres of baseline. We're excited about the possibility of students working with Altius Farms, a group that does hydroponic grow technology. There's a whole STEM curriculum about that in and of itself. We are also, and I can't say that we figured it out yet, but we are working very closely with some industry partners to determine if we can get a microgrid established within the baseline community. I just love thinking about the PBL opportunities that would be there for students associated with that initiative. The last thing I'll mention, I think it was commented upon earlier, we are very well located in this part of Colorado because there is a lot of job growth in STEM industries in this area. And we, as a master planned community and as a company, are looking to attract those STEM industries to baseline. Think about things such as advanced manufacturing, labs, biopharmaceuticals, and quite frankly, having a world-class public STEM school is a great and key component of this larger STEM ecosystem that we are striving to create. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Schaefer. I'm the planning manager here with Adams 12. I'm the district's demographer. So my role is to track developments and try to estimate how many students we're going to see out of those to make sure that we have capacity for those students. What you're seeing here is an estimate of the 9,205 units that have been approved at baseline. They've done some planning for about 80% of those units, and then we're estimating what the remainder will be. I should mention that this project will build out over 20 to 30 years. It'll have multiple neighborhoods, in other words, phases, and each of those neighborhoods will have its own, growth pattern, its own. As one neighborhood is nearing its peak, the other one will be starting off. So it's unlikely, although possible, but unlikely that we would experience all of these students at the exact same time. This is just the estimate of students that would be built by each individual development at its build out. So I'm in constant communication with Kyle and his team as they are modifying, tweaking their plans. We'll be modifying and tweaking our assumptions around the types of units and the number of units so that we can, as we get closer to this school, firm up these enrollment projections. And then you see here the school's capacity is going to be about 1,800 students. So it looks like we will currently have a bit more students than capacity, but I'll mention it again. All of these students will not be there at the exact same time. Very unlikely, it'll be over 20 to 30 years. So at this current stage, we feel pretty confident about being able to serve all of the students from this development. However, if there is a challenge with that, we do have a backup of a secondary school site. Nothing formalized or dedicated yet, but we have an agreement with the city and developer that if there is a need because of crowding at the first school to look at a second school, that we would do that. That would be 10 to 20, 30 years down the road. So just want to have everyone rest easy that currently capacity is looking good and we'll adjust as needed moving forward. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Margie Amman. I'm our district's Director of Facilities Design. So I'm going to briefly go through these next slides. I'm going to start out big picture and then each slide will zoom in a little closer. So this one speaks to the approximate acreage of the site, which is 3.5 acres. And it's really in line with what Kyle mentioned, that this is more of an urban setting. It's more of a high density type of setting. So the site is quite a bit smaller than our typical sites, which could range 10 to 50 acres. And this sets us up for looking at a multi-story type of building configuration, which we're excited about. So I also just want to point out that in the next slide, you're going to see, just keep in mind, this is programmatic and conceptual in nature. So we still have a lot of work to dive into to get into the real details. All right, let's go to the next slide. This slide focuses on site circulation, and I'll try to explain. Let's say north is up, south is down. So Up at the north end where the little arrow is, somebody's pointing for me, the red represents pedestrian pathways and entrance points. And that side of the school, the north side, is really the main entrance. The purple line represents where our bus drop-off pickup would be on the north side there. And then over to the west side, the purple would represent our drop-off pickup. And that is our main parking lot, which you can see is smaller than a traditional school. But if you go further up north, you can see an overflow parking lot, which we will have on the ground, and then possibly in the future, a parking garage. And then to the south or the lower is we're showing a trail that McWhinney has planned. So now we'll move to the next slide and we'll zoom in a little bit more into a little more detail. Up on the north side, you can see, again, that's the front, and you can see there are different entrances for the industry partners, the library entrance, and then the main school entry is between the two buildings. You can see that piece. And then to the south of the building, you're going to see different types of play areas, structured play and natural play. Keep in mind, this is a non-traditional site. So the structured play may be some of our typical play equipment for students, pre-K to 5th grade. And then the natural play, we're going to bring in more natural things that go with the butterfly pavilion or the elements that Kyle and Carrie talked about. There'll be a small play area field, but not your traditional field that could allow some soccer or a small baseball or softball. There's connections with outdoor learning with an amphitheater, gardens, a geo lab, and it could be shared also with the butterfly pavilion. All right, let's move to the next slide. All right, this is if you're looking at the floor plates of the building. And again, please keep in mind it's conceptual, but I want to point out the bottom floor is going to be pre-K and shared space. There will be a shared public library with the city of Broomfield. We'll have our dining areas, our kitchen. The next level, the second floor, would be the fitness center that we've talked about, which is pretty exciting, and also some administrative space and additional support. Then the next two levels would be K6 and then the 7-12. And keep in mind that right now it's showing that all the floor levels would have kind of a similar dedicated spaces to classrooms and science centers and partner areas. As we dive deeper into the design, that could change a little bit. Also, one thing to point out is you have only 2 floors for 7-12 and K6. 7-12 historically and traditionally, the classroom sizes are larger. So although there'll be more students in 7-12, there will be more students in the classrooms. And then on the top is industry partners. Now the next slide is a real fun slide. I like it the most because it really cuts through that building and shows a lot of character of the building, the architecture. You can see again down on the bottom floor, you've got the library, the Mindspark, and the pre-K items, elements, and then your next floor, your health and fitness. And then you can see this section cut through the grade levels, the K6 and the 7-12. The hope is to have an open presentation area in the middle between the 2 floors of K6 and then between the 2 floors of 7-12. So it'd be kind of like a learning stair or some type of open presentation area. And then your industry partners on the top. One thing to point out too, as well, is we are very aware of the security questions that folks might have, the challenges of keeping public folks separated from our students and industry partners. We haven't worked through all the details, but we'll work through elevators, stairs, entrances, and all those types of pieces. On the right, you can see what could be what the building looks like from the exterior. You can see the different levels of plazas, the play areas, and exterior patios and such. So I think that is just a general overview of the building. Thank you.
Thank you, Margie. Okay, we're going to move into our second breakout. These are the 2 questions, so feel free to jot down some ideas on your paper. based on the non-traditional sports recreation areas, what potential extracurricular activities or offerings do you envision? The second question is, what comments, questions, or concerns do you have about enrollment, location, and access? So now I'm going to ask breakout rooms number 3 and number 4, just to be prepared, identify a spokesperson, and we're going to send you to breakout rooms for about 4 minutes, and then we'll return. Raquel, go ahead.
All rooms are now open.
Welcome back. All right, breakout group number 3. If you could just share briefly some of the highlights from your conversation.
Sure, I was in breakout group 3. We talked about the potential for gardening, horticulture, and the partnership with the Butterfly Pavilion for sort of nature studies things. We had a lot of open questions about when it's going to open and how the dynamics of the boundary versus choice is going to work, particularly if the whole development is happening over 20 to 30 years. I can see that sort of changing a little bit. And I think just a lot of open questions about when it's going to start, and the elementary kids going to start at a different time to the high school kids and that sort of thing. So a lot of detailed questions that it's probably too early to really answer yet. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Group number 4.
I'll speak. We didn't call anyone out. I'm Felicia Evans. I'm actually a STEM coordinator at STEM Launch. And in our group, we had a counselor at Legacy, and he was talking about sports and how if there are not traditional sports, if we could still have our students go to their home schools for sports to participate, because CHASA rules do allow that. And then I talked to the group about how at STEM Launch, we offer extensive Beyond the Bell opportunities. And a lot of those are very student-based. So students have interests in things like a Lego building club or a makerspace club, that they're able to talk to the teachers and have those type of extracurriculars that happen after school. And so if we can have some of those things offered, and if middle school sports were to come back to the district, would that also be something we could look at for our students, maybe going to other schools to participate in those as well?
Great, thank you. All right, we're going to do another waterfall. You see the questions there, you know, based on the last time how we do this. So feel free to share your comments, questions, or concerns, as well as any ideas for extracurricular activities. And while you're doing that, I will introduce our next speakers. So we're going to, in this next section, be looking at the highlights of the educational design of the STEM school. And so we have the CEO of Mindspark Learning, Kelly Loth, and our district STEM coordinator, Carrie Glenn. Carrie and Kelly.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, Joe. I thought we were given time for people to put their stuff in, so my apologies. Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to be with you this evening, and very excited to talk a little bit about the partnerships within the building. So Mindspark Learning is a global nonprofit, and we work with educators across the globe, but we have a very strong partnership and relationship with Adams 12. And really, Mindspark Learning's goal here is to help support the adults in our system. So we will provide professional learning experiences for educators, for principals, for school leaders, and for those in the system. And we will actually reside within the building on the first floor and share that first floor space that Margie talked about earlier with the city and county of Broomfield's public library. And it's a really great partnership. We have all, as organizations, worked together for many years and are very much aligned in terms of the STEM vision and our values. And Mindspark is one of the largest providers of professional learning currently around STEM and also problem-based learning. So it fits nicely. So as people come in to visit, we will be the ones to help convene visitors and guests. We'll also be the organization that helps manage the partnerships and works closely with the city and county of Broomfield, as well as McWhinney and others, to make sure that our partners are really truly invested in the design of the model and really helping further and promote the educational opportunities here as well across our other STEM schools. And currently we work across Adams 12 with multiple schools, and we work with our STEM schools. So it's exciting to be able to actually co-locate in this design. If we want to jump to the next slide, I think that it's around the library. Yes. So the city and county of Broomfield apologizes. They actually are in their council meeting this evening, and so a representative from their team was unable to join. And so if you have questions, I can certainly provide contact information for them directly. But the city and county of Broomfield has committed to putting a public-facing public library in the bottom part of the school, which also benefits the school directly. So the students within the school will be able to access it, as well as there will be a public facing piece to that. So it's very exciting. It is an extension of the library that they already have. So the Mamie Dow Foundation is not moving, but it is another location for them, which is exciting within the city and county. And we're really excited to partner and bring programming for not only preschoolers and families, but all the way up and provide some research opportunities, different types of clubs and activities for our middle school, elementary students, and high schoolers. So thank you very much. Oh, and there's a little bit about us. So again, we have been in existence. This is year 5 for us, which is very exciting. And we are very proud, again, of these partnerships that we have, and look forward to working within the community to develop and bring, as Kyle kind of mentioned earlier, part of this key development is to attract talent and attract industry partners to the region and to our district and to our community. And so here's a number of our partners that we have that we certainly will be bringing to the table and helping engage Adams 12 students, and also helping uplift that national blueprint and really helping foster tours and getting people excited about what's happening in our own backyards. So again, thank you so much for your time this evening.
On this next slide, we're going to be looking at just some of the highlights of design. These are some things that we know that we need to be taking in consideration as we are talking about this national blueprint. And one of them is making sure that students have access to these opportunities. If students live on the south end, how we will be able to have them have access to those pathways at the north end, vice versa. Those are some of the different types of questions and design elements that we need to focus in on. Based on the industries, and you'll be seeing them in the next presentation, some of our conceptual ideas that we currently are working on and building through. You'll be able to see the industries in the next part of our presentation, and then there's going to be certifications that come along with that. When it says internships, mentorships, and apprenticeships, something that's very powerful inside of our model is not only for opportunities for the students, but also for the staff. And that's really where Mindspark is able to help add some meat to what goes on inside of our system. Sometimes because of either OSHA regulations or HIPAA regulations, there may be age or safety pieces that students may not be able to do certain types of internships or or apprenticeships with some companies, where we would actually be able to have externships being hosted by teachers to be able to do those pieces. And those are also things that will be incorporated as they currently are inside of our model. We would love to be able to see truly a STEM preschool, as well as full day kindergarten happening on site, as well as this is already in existence also at our STEM lab and STEM launch. EPIC stands for exploring possibilities and careers, and it is a career exploration opportunity for middle school students. Our next presenter that you're going to be hearing from is actually our Director for Career and Technical Education and Career Force Readiness. And she is already working inside of our system to be able to create these opportunities for students, not only inside of the 5-star STEM schools, but inside the district as a whole. EPIC has been going on for years now at STEM Lab and STEM Launch, where students are able to do job shadows, are able to go on field experiences, and allow themselves just to get their feet a little bit wet and their hands a little bit dirty, doing the work right alongside professionals inside the fields. And so we want to make sure that all of those are carried on inside of our design.
Thank you, Carrie and Kelly. So for our third breakout session here, these are the 2 questions we'd like you to reflect on. So feel free to jot down some ideas. What excites you and what wonderings do you have around the co-location of public and partnership spaces within the same school facility? And then the second question is, what concerns do you still have? So with that,
breakout rooms are closed.
okay, thank you, Raquel. All right, breakout room number 5. If you could share just some of your conversation around the first question, what excites you and what wonderings do you have around co-location of public and partnership spaces?
Well, some of the things that excites this particular group were being exposed to different types of technology that would be available, having partners or having businesses there and establishing strong partnerships with that. I'm a STEM coordinator, or not STEM coordinator, STEM advisor at Northglenn High School. And I get excited with the idea of possibly having a legacy PBLs that the students don't do one time in their class, is that they pursue these particular PBLs for possibly their entire middle school or a high school career. That would allow that, and then have the ability to communicate with the businesses on what needs to be changed and how could those changes be available to the students to see. And then the concerns, there were 2 concerns about with the public library, with being safety concerns with the students having a public library within. There was some talk about, there's one that was in one particular school and they had to shut it down because of safety concerns. And then the other one was, there is one right now at Skyview that they have a public library at Skyview, and to contact them to see how that's going. So.
Okay, thank you, Kent. Group number 6.
Yeah, so in our group, we talked about similar things, mainly the safety portion of it and how it's the balance between all of it.
Okay, thank you, Jomira. All right, once again, and all of these comments are very helpful in terms of as we move forward in refining plans, answering questions. It's just, this is all very helpful to know what's on the minds of our stakeholders within the district. So thank you very much. With that, as we segue into our fourth session, feel free to jump into the chat, and if there's anything that wasn't said by the two breakout groups that you'd like to share in the chat, feel free to do that now related to those two questions. Okay, so now we are going to move to the educational model and pathways with our CTE and post-secondary readiness director, Christy Weaver. Welcome, Christy. We'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everyone. I am your CTE and post-secondary readiness director, so I oversee all of our career and technical education programming that lives at our comprehensive high schools, as well as our future forward campuses at Bowman and Washington Square. And I'm excited to say that we will soon hopefully have some established programs, some official CTE programs in our middle schools. So thank you for having us again tonight. I'll start us off by just reminding you what Carrie shared earlier, that this school will be no different than the other STEM schools. It'll be the same model in every classroom every day, as you can see there, with the problem-based learning, the transdisciplinary lens, the engineering design mindset, and the career-connected learning. And the other piece that I really want, that I think is not always pointed out, but that is a strong connection here, is the connection between our STEM programming and how it is a piece of our future forward overall programming. They don't live separately, they live simultaneously, and they work well together. As you can see, similar to what Carrie has shared around our STEM programming, it aligns nicely with our mission of engaging and inspiring all of our students to innovate and achieve in career pathways with authentic problem solving, with the application of academic and workplace skills. So just like our STEM, CTE is a part of, or excuse me, STEM is a part of our CTE programming, and all of it is about giving kids the option and opportunity to have an extension and application of what they're learning in their core academics that provide them that competitive edge, and so that they can advance into post-secondary and career pathways. And that's really what this is about. So what we want to talk about next is our potential STEM pathways. Not all of these may occur, but these are the ones that have either been investigated. What you're looking at currently, I'll ground us first in what we currently offer. So the colored boxes you have in front of you are the 6 national career sectors, because we're part of a national model, and this is our state model. So the red is our business marketing career sector, the agricultural natural resources sector. Then you have your engineering, technology, and media arts sector, which is where STEM naturally occurs. Skilled trades in the orange, and technical sciences. And then we have our health and criminal justice and public safety in the gray. And then we'll finish up with our purple boxes, which is our hospitality, human services, and education pathways. And what you see there, if you'll notice carefully, 4 of those career sectors have STEM affiliated pathways. While STEM is naturally called out a lot in the green, we also have STEM affiliated pathways in the gray, which live in our biomedical health sciences areas, and then in the skilled trades with our advanced manufacturing, welding types of programs. What you'll also notice currently is the only career sector we have no programming is that blue career sector under agriculture, natural resources, and energy. And so the next slide is going to show you where we're thinking about putting some pathways. So as I just said, not all of these may occur, but these are the ones that we're tossing around, either based on partners that have reached out to us that have said that, like, the industry demand is there and we have partners ready to go to help support that pathway, and or these are ones that where there is the industry demand and we would be seeking out new partnerships. And so Carrie, I'm going to ask you in just a second, what I don't say well, please reiterate. But in the ag and natural resources and energy, we're really excited to say that we would be able to offer new pathways that we've never offered before, which is in the renewable energy, sustainable agriculture. It's also been phrased as urban agriculture, and then that clean tech realm, pardon me. And then when you go down into the health sciences and criminal justice and public safety realm, We're looking in the biosciences and biomimicry. And if I listen to Carrie carefully on this, the way I understand, when you think of the biomimicry, think first of all, we can always think of like like your retina scanners and things like that that we've used for security purposes. But biomimicry also lives in the fact of like shark skin. It naturally is hypoallergenic. And so we are taking what's in nature and we're recreating it and using it for purposes in sciences to improve potentially the sustainability of things, the health and safety of others. And I will let Carrie give you some more insight on that in just a second. With the skilled trades and technical sciences, with that mobility and transportation, we're really looking at thinking through our partnerships potentially with RTD and the just the transportation and mobility opportunities we would have, as well as that sustainability and energy aspect of that as well. And then we're looking at our engineering, technology, media arts, where STEM naturally lives. And it would be an extension of an aerospace program. We touch on aerospace now in several of our STEM programs, but this would be a further extension of that into a full aerospace program. Advanced manufacturing would be similar to that. Optics is a piece of advanced manufacturing, but a very specialized area and a very in-demand area. And then along with in addition to our other computer science programs, we would do a deeper dive into some of those computer information systems and a deeper dive into cybersecurity, so that while it is in the same pathway, it would have its own unique offerings and own unique corporate partners that would help us with this. Carrie, please elaborate.
You did a fantastic job. Biomimicry is just whenever we see nature doing it best. When nature builds it best, and we can take things that we've learned from it to be able to do better. So even if you think about the way that bees put together the cells that they store honey in, that tessellation actually is that hexagon shape can actually fit nicely together better than cylinders can. And so whenever we can see something that nature does better than we do, we lean back into nature to be able to make it happen. So well done with your example.
Thank you, Christy. So we're going to do something a little bit different for this last engagement. Rather than go to breakout sessions, we're going to just do a waterfall. So we'll do this question by question. So the first question is, which of these pathways resonate most with you? So go ahead and when you've got an answer to that question, just type it into the chat. Julie says all of them. So renewable energy, clean energy, ag tech, glad that there'll be a focus on agriculture. Okay, let's move to the second question. Are there other industries that you see developing in the area that we have not mentioned? And go ahead and type those into the chat. Manufacturing, data centers, Children's Hospital, data science, project management, open to change, just knowing that Obviously, industry needs will evolve. Okay, we have one more piece. I want to bring Superintendent Chris Godowski back in, who's going to talk a little bit about financing for this project. And then we will move to some closing pieces and any questions that you may want to ask. So, Chris.
Thanks, Joe. So let me first pull your attention to the right-hand side of this slide where it talks about current estimated design, construction, furniture, fixtures, and equipment cost of $135 to $150 million. And acknowledge that that's a staggering sum, I believe, for most of us in terms of thinking about school construction. I'd like to give a little bit of context about why I believe that number may be less staggering given some other expenditure items out there in our experience and in some other districts. So the district example I'll use is our construction of the Thunder Vista K-8 school as part of our 2016 bond program. Thunder Vista is a relevant comparable in my view, because at the same time that we were planning Thunder Vista, we were also getting some cost estimates around baseline. This baseline discussion has been going on for about a decade now. And 4 to 5 years ago, we were at a spot of having some of the architectural drawings prepared and conceiving the school in some greater detail, and had architects and contractors give us some feedback about estimated cost of bringing that to fruition. And 5 years ago, that cost was roughly $95 to $100 million estimated. When you look at what it actually cost us to do Thunder Vista K-8, which is a school serving 900 students or designed to serve 900, the cost of that project was $46 million. And it was commenced at the same time that we had this $95 to $100 million estimate for the STEM school serving roughly 1,800 students. So one calculation that I feel like makes sense to most of us is when you look at a school, Thunder Vista serving 900 students at a cost of $46 million. If you double that up, which would take us to the place of constructing a baseline STEM school, back in the 2016 timeframe, that project would have cost us roughly $92 million to do Thunder Vista type of construction, but to make it a school serving roughly 1,800 students. There's obviously been quite a bit of price inflation in construction that's occurred since that time. We see it all around us. And so that's a lot of why the initial estimate of $95 to $100 million has now grown to $135 to $150 million. My thesis is that Thunder Vista would likely cost substantially more to construct now too, given those same inflationary cost pressures that we see out there. The other comparable that I'm mindful about is that the Greeley School District is in the process of a tear down rebuild of its Greeley West High School. That project's been underway for a number of years now. That project is going to cost about $125 million, according to the information we've received from Greeley. So school construction is costly. And even though there are a lot of unique and interesting features about our proposed baseline school, and it goes vertical in ways that most schools don't, what we see is that it's not outpacing really the cost of construction in other settings. So that's some background information. The other thing that's unique about baseline is that we have a number of funding sources that can really help us do this at less cost to our taxpayers than typical construction projects. So the first thing I'll note on the left-hand side of the slide in terms of a funding source is that there are 2 urban renewal authorities, one North Park that's been in place for a number of years now, and the one at baseline that's more recent in origin was approved by Broomfield City Council in the spring of 2021. And both of those urban renewal authorities are structured to help the developer pay for infrastructure necessary to make the development come to life. So there are some tax incentives provided in these urban renewal authorities that give some tax rebates onto the developer to pay for things like streets and sidewalks, water and sewer, lighting, park development. And part of what McWhinney and the city and county of Broomfield agreed to do is to help allocate some of that Urban Renewal Authority tax benefit to Adams 12 to help us pay for school design and construction costs to have a school at baseline. And back in November of 2020, they estimated, consultants with McWhinney, that we would receive about $80 million over the 20-year period of these urban renewal authorities. It's actually 81.9 million if people want to be more specific. And they had fairly conservative assumptions about how much inflation would happen in home values over time, assessed value of property. Both of those were roughly 1% increases per year. I think we all know that, at least in the last couple of years, we've seen much more significant increases in home values. They also estimated anywhere from roughly 150 new housing units to 450 housing units over the next 20 to 25 years. So certainly not extreme and aggressive assumptions. And so $80 million would be a significant contribution toward paying the construction and design costs for this project. In addition to that, back in 2016, baseline was very much contemplated as a possibility for us to do. We knew we didn't have all of the funding at that time, but we reserved $10 million as part of that bond issue to help us build a school and get it launched in the future. So we still have those funds on hand that we could use in the situation. The third thing you see highlighted here is an anticipated philanthropic donation of about $10 million from a prominent family that's invested in a variety of projects locally, including contributions to the University of Denver's Ed School, to the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, and other promising educational projects throughout the country. And so we'd expect to collect $10 million from that organization over the next 5-year period. The city and county of Broomfield has identified a $10 million contribution as something they want to make happen through annual installment payments of $1 million a year. And then finally, you see noted on here, service expansion fees that the city and county of Broomfield collects every time a new home is built within Broomfield. Some of that funding goes for park and rec services, but there's also funding that's allocated to schools to help provide joint use facilities to benefit the entire community. And we estimate by the time we got to construction that there would be $5 million setting within the SEF or service expansion fee account with city and county of Broomfield. So the good news is when you total all those funding sources together, it's about $115 million. I want to make clear that that doesn't mean that the total cost of a school at baseline would be $20 million to $35 million, because unfortunately, a lot of the funds I've just outlined would be funds that we would get over time as opposed to funds that we'd have up front. And so we'd still have to borrow the bulk of the funding necessary to build this school through bonds that we would pay back over an approximate 20-year time frame. But we would have all of these funds that would be coming in over time to help us defray those expenses to taxpayers. It would allow us to refinance or refund some of the bonds potentially so that we could pay off the debt quicker. It would allow us to do some things that in the end reduce taxpayer expense compared to a scenario where you're just borrowing $135 to $150 million and you don't have any of those additional contributions coming in over time. So we really feel like the financing sources that we have are unique in this case compared to other things that we've done in Adams 12 and frankly throughout the state. And we're excited that we've attracted the interest of not only the city and county of Broomfield and McWhinney, but also some of these third parties like this philanthropic organization that plans to announce their planned donations later this year. Joe, I'm going to toss it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. We have one more slide that, there we go, that we're going to share a link in the chat with you to a form or a survey where we would like you to answer those 3 questions for us. Things that you're excited about, suggestions or ideas you'd like to share, as well as any concerns. You can fill that out now, if you'd like, we're also going to, as a follow-up, we'll send an email out to everyone who's participated tonight with a link to that survey that you can fill out at that time as well. So we've got a couple minutes left here where we can take some questions from you. There's two ways to do that. You can either type them into the chat, or you can use the raise hand feature. If you go down to the bottom of your Zoom window under the reactions tab, you'll see one that says raise hand. So feel free to do that if you have any questions. Chris, I know one of the questions earlier was a sense of timing for when the school may be built. Can you just share some information in that area?
You bet, Joe. So most likely this would be a school that would open either in the fall of 2025 or the fall of 2026. That's hedged to some degree by a couple of things. One is the completion of our Blueprint 2032 process. You may have heard about that in various settings, but it's our effort to look at what kind of facility and academic programming needs we have throughout the district over the next 10 years. And we're in the middle of that now. Because of the pandemic, some of our pace of that has slowed down. And so it may not be concluded until actually next spring, the spring of 2023. So that's a piece that can affect when we might be ready to go out and ask our voters for financial contributions to make this project happen. I believe right now, given all of the things that are in front of us, it's likely that that bond measure will be posed to our electorate in November of 2023, just given some of the delays that have been caused by the pandemic. Assuming we got a yes there, then we'd be moving on with construction at that point. There's also some decisions about what work we'd want to do in the design space before heading out to the electorate versus afterwards. Thunder Vista, for example, we started to do some design work months before, well before the election, with hopes that we would get a yes, because we felt a lot of urgency to get that school constructed. The same possibility exists with Baseline. Assuming the feedback we get in these settings and other feedback situations that we have planned in the months ahead is positive, we could be, after consulting with our board, in a spot of doing some design work prior to a November 2023 election. And so depending on all those variables, an opening in fall of 25 or 26 is what we believe is likely to happen.
We have another question here that I might direct towards Christy or Carrie. In addition to partnering with private industry, are there also plans to partner with academia and government or academia?
Great question. So in alignment with the rest of our career and tech ed pathways, our goal is to always try to find alignment with our concurrent enrollment and dual enrollment partners. Right now, we partner with Front Range Community College as our primary partner for concurrent enrollment, but we also partner with Red Rocks Community College, Community College of Aurora. We partner with Metro State, and we partner with CU through their CU Succeed program. And then some of our STEM pathways have specific articulation and concurrent enrollment agreements with Western State. Is that correct, Carrie?
Western Colorado University, CU College of Engineering, Metro State University, where we have agreements with them, as well as credit through University of Colorado Springs for our PLTW.
So that post-secondary alignment is definitely at the top of our list, as well as making sure that we have as many industry certifications aligned as possible. The more we can put these students, at an advantage when they leave us for entry-level positions, the better as they work through the rest of their post-secondary pathway.
Thank you. There's another question about what will the school look like in terms of boundaries as well as choice. Chris, can you maybe talk a little bit about how this school might be a hybrid between choice and boundary?
You bet, Joe. Yeah, hybrid's really the term that we're using internally to describe how this would work at baseline for a lengthy period of time following its construction and opening. The hybrid model is what we've used at places like STEM Launch and Leroy Drive, as it's been an IB program. And the concept is that one of the primary purposes is to make sure that the school serves students in proximity to where the school is located so that they don't have to travel elsewhere and they can access something in close proximity. But we also know that in many of these cases, there's room in the building that we can serve students with and still serve all within the adjacent area who have interest in attending. And so we'd often, in these scenarios, open up enrollment to students throughout the district. We tend to allocate those spaces out based on director districts from our Board of Education director districts so that our entire community has access. It helps us further some of our diversity interest in providing these opportunities to students district-wide. We know that transportation would be an important thing for us to provide to help students get access who might live further away from the school. But in general, that's the model. And then as the school gets to a place where more of the baseline community has been built out, we'll have to see what enrollment patterns look like at that time and whether shifting some of the choice enrollment within the community needs to happen. It's really tough to know in terms of the future, whether the 1,970 kids that we forecast now will actually come. Will birth rates be the same as they are now? Will they decline? Will there be private school, charter school, other school options that emerge over the next 20 years? So all of those pieces, when you look long-term, would affect how the hybrid situation might work 20 to 30 years from now. But for the foreseeable future, having access throughout the system to a good number of students throughout the district would be what we'd envision. And we would go through a process much like we did with Thunder Vista to help ask our community to give input around how we should draw the boundaries in the most equitable way to serve our interests and not crowding any of our schools and providing opportunity to access this unique school setting.
Okay. Carrie, if you could just put in the chat one more time, the link to the form for feedback, just in case people want to complete that this evening. Again, we thank you for your time and your interest in 5-star STEM at baseline. And our commitment is to keep you updated on this work as it moves forward, and to also reflect the feedback that you've given in as we move forward and refine our plans for this school. So be on the lookout for an email with that form and survey in it in the next couple days, in case you don't get a chance to fill that out this evening. But again, we thank you for your time and feedback, and stay warm and have a wonderful rest of the evening. Bye now.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.